Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to use a few different effects in order to generate a more realistic looking muzzle flash. Although I used Adobe After Effects, you can use other editing software provided they have blending mode capabilities. Okay, so I'm here in After Effects. I've set up a composition with this shot from our recent short film The Little Things, in which the character on the left shoots the character on the right. So dead simple. The very first thing you need, the most obvious thing, is the muzzle flash itself, which I just downloaded from YouTube. There are plenty of these available, so just use a YouTube converter and you should find the particular source of muzzle flash you're looking for. Now obviously you notice that black background there. You want to change the blending mode to screen or add or some such that you get rid of that. That lowers the opacity a bit as well. Now one of the most common mistakes that has been highlighted to me is that people make the muzzle flashes way too big for the gun, which sort of is a stylistic choice, but in the case of this particular film we were going for a much more realistic output, so we want to maybe make the scale a bit smaller such that it is bigger than the gun itself but not drastically so. Something like that, so you can tell. And then of course you can also play around with the rotation settings and position to match it to where the gun comes out. Now already there you've got a pretty solid effect that would do for most things, but we want to add a little bit more to that. The next thing I've added in mine is a smoke effect, and again this was something I downloaded from YouTube. It's all that sort of footage you can get for free just using converters on there. So we're going to do the same thing again there and just change the blending mode to screen and lower the scale and put it there. Now for this we're also going to lower the opacity quite a bit, maybe reduce the scale a bit more and the rotation to match it a bit. We'll see how that's looking there. So you see there that maybe if we move it a little bit over so it's more like it's coming out the barrel of the gun, and maybe drop the opacity a little bit more. So yeah, you're getting that little bit of smoke, just makes the effect look a little bit more real. What you can do then, and if I was doing this for the actual film, I would then motion track this to the background. This background might prove a little bit tricky because it's so noisy with all the different branches there, but really if you just find a point to latch onto, like that one there, maybe motion track the background, perhaps not there because they're moving a bit in the wind, maybe one of the trees in the background, perhaps motion track that, apply the data to this smoke layer so that the smoke looks like it's actually in the environment. For the purposes of this though, that doesn't actually look too bad, but maybe if you were going for the proper film, maybe just motion track it just to make it look a little bit more like it's actually happening there. As well, one of the things you can do then is make that look like it's actually emitting light. This is perhaps more applicable to darker shots here. That's actually probably not that bad, but I'll show you what we do anyway. So if we create a new solid layer and we make the colour sort of very bright yellowish, I think would work. We'll turn that off for now, and we'll use the pen tool to create a mask around our actor's face there, so that it looks like the muzzle is lighting up the face. Obviously that's not exactly what you want. We'll make that so it's timed just for the muzzle flash. And then what we're going to do is in the mask we're going to feather that quite a lot and lower the opacity so that it is not quite so severe. But obviously you can see, I mean that's maybe possibly a little bit too noticeable, but the thing you have to remember as well is it's literally flashing up for one frame, and that just makes it look like it's perhaps emitting a bit more light. Maybe feather it a bit more, lower the opacity a bit more, But again, you can play around with these settings until you find something that works for you. It's literally just a little blip there. It's a blink and you'll miss it, but it just looks a little bit more like it's firing. And as well, maybe on the hands and the coat, you can do that too. So there you've got a pretty solid effect for the muzzle flash. Certainly nicer than it would be if you just did the flash on its own. The other thing we can maybe add is some very brief blood on your target. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to duplicate the cannon smoke and move it over a couple of frames to when the actor starts to react, about there. We'll move it over to here so he gets hit in the head. Right, then what we're going to do, we'll just play around with the settings very, very briefly just to make it match this new thing, because obviously you're not matching the gun anymore. And then it's dead straightforward, just add in a tint filter and change the white to red and lower that right down. Maybe not right down, maybe about 50% will work. Yeah, that's not too bad. And then maybe lower the opacity a little bit more, because you don't want this one to be as noticeable. We'll just see how that looks. That's not too bad. Maybe we can make that a bit lower. Something like that. Maybe lower the scale as well. Yeah, it's very, very subtle, but it just makes it look a little bit more real. Yeah. Maybe just make it a bit close to the muzzle flash. We'll see how that looks. That's not bad, certainly for the tutorial, but again, play around with these settings as much as you want, and hopefully this will allow you to get a slightly nicer, more realistic looking muzzle flash for your end product. Right, well, thank you for watching. Hopefully this has been informative, and I'll see you next time. Bye.